Hey everyone, my name's Andy. I'm with Finding Value Finance. I'll be your host today. We've got Kasper or Uselink back on the channel. Wanted to bring him back, get his opinions on some things that I might be seeing or might not be seeing. So thanks for coming on, Kasper. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. As always, we've been doing this for quite some time now, and yeah, it's uh, it's good. It's something that we do like month to month. So let's continue. Let's continue.
Yeah, and give updates as the markets progress.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I'm seeing in the market, and I just wanted to make sure that you're seeing the same things. Energy's looking pretty energy, specifically oil, and a lot of other energy areas. So I want to talk a lot about energy. What's your opinions right now on oil?
Yeah, I think like we spoke about last time, we had broken down heavily from that 2 year fractal or formation. And we talked about two things. This could either be one of the biggest false breakdowns in a while, or, we were about to see some really low oil prices. And the past few weeks has maybe given us an early sign that this could be that false breakdown. In my book, we haven't quite confirmed yet, but we can have a look at that. It's pretty interesting to say the least, because I know that oil, like a week or two, I read that it was the most short, that oil were the most shorted in that it has ever been, if my memory serves me correct here. So, and from big falls breakdowns comes huge reversals. So maybe we could be in for a big spike in oil. Maybe.
Maybe. So I might have premature excitement, is what you're saying.
No, I mean, I know we are, but we can have a look at it and have a discussion there. But it's a little bit premature for my in my book. But again, I know many people have called the false breakdown, but it looks, as I usually say, interesting because there could be some big opportunities there waiting.
So just to lay everything out for everybody who's listening, we're going to probably cover oil, coal, maybe nat gas,
Yeah, yeah.
uranium, and towards the end of this, we'll touch on precious metals and those sectors. So that's kind of the rough area of what we're going to cover throughout this talk here. So, Casper, anything you want to start off with before heading into any of these sectors?
No, not really. I think we will just go through it as we progress to during the recording here. So no, let's
Okay, so how about we start with you want to do crude oil itself, the
yeah, sure.
futures markets, and see what that looks like, and then maybe progress into the ETFs companies.
Yeah. Let me know when you can see the screen. I guess you can.
We can see that beautiful chart that looks like it's ready to break to the upside.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I want to zoom out a bit here because
Fingers crossed.
yeah, fingers crossed. Uh,
Yeah.
this is oil like 20 years back in time. And I can't remember if we talked about this, but the previous two times we had these 2 year, 3 year, sideways, basically contracting markets. We had huge breakdowns. This was back in 14. And then we had the one just before, what happened in 2020. And then we actually had that mega rally where we also finally broke the long-term resistance trend line, basically taking the highs from '08 to 14. And then we have a lot of stuff going on here. And we also had similar ish. You can see the big blue here, the same kind of thing. But this time around, we were actually above that previous resistance, which is now support. So that is a little bit extra, plus if you look at it from a bullish side of view point of view. Um, so what happened here in the past few weeks is we broke down, and we were breaking down last time we spoke. I think we were somewhere around here. I can't remember exactly. And that is
Yeah.
always, extremely scary once you start to uh, to break down here from like 2 years worth of compression. And but usually you get the retest, which happened straight after. We came down again. We couldn't quite clear the previous breakdown low, and then we had that big rally back into the overall wedge pattern here, basically into the apex. I know that a lot of that, at least some of the move here was probably due to the situation in the Middle East, with Israel and all that stuff going on. Um, that's obviously never a good thing, and that's why you saw oil spiking because you are actually talking about countries that is producing quite a lot of oil. So that's also why I'm still a little bit hesitant to call it, that the false breakdown has happened because this was really some of it were at least news driven. So that's always something you got to be a little bit careful with when it comes to news and pushing markets because usually it fades. Um, However, false breakdown here, a lot of people went short, and I know that a lot of people before the breakdown also went very, very short in oil, um, due to people calling, what's it called, depression, and all that, markets coming down, but we haven't seen that just yet, at least. So what do I want to see here? Basically, I basically want to see oil stay here and then, clear the blue. So if we can get above, anywhere between 78 and 80, then you can see here we're zooming out that we actually back above. We have the highs here, basically 5 touches more or less on that blue rail. And if we have a false breakdown here, that usually leads to a massive move in the other direction. And we could see oil, close to 90, $100, within like a few months here, if that really is the case. But remember, I'm still waiting to get above that, roughly that $80 level, roughly,
So
to confirm that.
you're calling it 80.
Yeah,
And
80.
then mhm.
Yeah, roughly 80. Again, as I said here, above these highs here, which is like, 78, is where you start to see, you could see the higher prices once we clear, but we have to clear the rail first to be really, really confident that that is the case. So you're probably going to break, have a lot of shorts covering, come down, and then you have the next go again. So interesting to say the least, if that is really the case.
85, that's a good line in the sand for new higher high. That'd be,
Yeah,
yep, right
major,
there.
yeah, major high,
Yeah.
high, yeah, exactly, major one, yeah.
That would be that's clear. That's totally clear. That's all clear to go.
Yeah.
So right now you would say you're neutral, not necessarily bullish or bearish, and you're just waiting for the next move for oil. Is that a good
Yeah,
summary?
exactly. I'm waiting for the confirmation because it could easily be that if all this news here start to fade again, you start to fade, and then again you could have that move down. Um, but again, very often these big breakdowns here they are to be watched because if they don't break down, they go heavily in the other direction quite quickly. So
Yeah, and one thing that I watch, and I watch some of the fundamentals. I know a lot of guys, other guys are the technicals. Um, Looking at a dot plot versus the historical pricing versus the inventory level that we're at, we are $8 undervalued for oil. Looking at the historical inventory level dot plot,
okay.
and if we continue to draw down our inventory levels, that would suggest a potential break higher just from a fundamental
Hmm.
perspective. I'm just throwing that in there for all the viewers. Um, how is, sometimes when we look at oil, some of the leading indicators that I look at could be positioning in the equities. So we haven't broken out necessarily clearly on the futures oil pricing, but what about the equities? Because what we usually see with the big boys is they position in the equities before the breakout in oil. So what are you seeing in something like XLE, XOP, like some of those ETFs out there? Do we see positioning in that, and is it ready to break in those?
Yeah, we can take the bigger ETF, XLE, obviously. Again, we have to zoom out here quite a bit. So again, if we don't go back too long in time here, we have roughly 3 years worth of price action. And again, if you want to do a little bit of technicals, we have actually had not the worst kind of things going on here. So we are basically grinding within the overall purple, a little bit of a wedge pattern, but I wouldn't call it like a rising wedge by any means. But we are making weekly higher highs, and I think we did break here last week actually. Yeah, we did. Right there, yeah, beautiful. We basically broke out and now we retested. Yeah, usually you see positioning in those that's actually perfect in the equities first before the metal, or in this case oil is moving. So yeah,
I'm getting
interesting.
you more bullish.
Yeah, yeah. I mean It could be fun to do actually. Should we do XLE divided by oil just to see if there is something going on there?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't. Trust me, I haven't done this in ages. So we will just quickly remove everything and see. Oh, okay. We have yeah, okay. I mean, if you were to do again, this is not the best chart, but again, we are clearing.
Yep.
Yeah,
Full back test.
that's not the worst. Yeah. So, and
Yeah,
if you are to do, yeah,
2022 is such a good spot to be getting in. It's so low.
yeah, it's I mean,
Low down there.
still somewhat
Yeah.
low compared to 14. So
Yeah.
14, 15, 16, and we could do a little measured move here if we were to be really, just to see where this alone takes us. And that's from here we have like 20% roughly outperformance by XLE compared to oil. And if that's the case, I wouldn't be expecting oil to crash because then I would expect XLE to crash as well. Because usually you if you have the outperformance in XLE, you also have oil not tanking at least. So
Yeah.
that's quite interesting for sure.
So that doesn't look bad. That
No,
looks
it's not the
good.
worst. That's not the worst by any means.
What about what about the smaller guys? What about like PSCE, which is the small cap ETF?
PS PSE.
PSCE. Yep. And
Yeah, this is, I just want to check the downtrend here. Huge downtrend broken there. Again, we can just quickly do it here. That's
it's
the,
almost like an inverted head and shoulders to some degree too,
where
if
do
you
you
go
mean here?
across.
Oh, here. Yeah, yeah, that could be something
The
there.
big
Yes.
one, there's a huge, yeah, the huge one
Yeah,
going
yeah,
across at
yeah,
the 45 or whatever it is.
yeah, yeah, true, true. Right here somewhere. Uh, but I'm just seeing here if I were to give like a quick update here like this again. Same thing here. We have that 2.5 year worth of basically sideways
Yep.
action. Potentially, maybe like a false breakdown here, but that's just intra week, so I wouldn't put that much into it. But still, you can see that either way we break here, it's gonna be a lot of energy being released, right? So either way we go.
No,
So so,
we
so
gotta
yeah,
go up.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
what
gonna
makes it
be.
what makes it difficult though is we've got the yield curve declining at
Hmm?
the same time, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's
What
yeah,
about
this yeah,
oh, sorry, what about PSCE divided by crude oil itself? Is
by
that
oil,
way
yeah,
down there? Because usually the big boys lead, which is XLE, and then the small caps generally lag. So I would expect this to be lower versus its highs. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. It
real
hasn't
low
broken
with the
out
double
compared
bottom.
to yeah,
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 looks good.
double bottom kind of thing there, and then you have like a ceiling somewhere around here, right? Just drawn very quickly. So it's again, we had a little bit of a zone here. We broke out. We have a zone here. So hopefully we get into the next kind of zone here potentially. Uh, but oh,
Hopefully each
excuse
of
me.
that
That's
zone up at three or whatever it is up there.
yeah. Look at that trend line break, by the way, going back to 15. You can
You
see
know you
there.
like it.
Yeah, and then you go sideways. It's not the worst. I mean,
Looking good.
yeah, let's take the highs just to be really extreme here. So getting when it gets above like basically anywhere between 0.72 and 0.75. I mean, that's when you should start to see some outperformance by this ETF and the underlying holdings that they have. So, oh yeah, not the worst.
And what about natural gas? What's
Natural gas.
because I mean obviously these are oil and natural gas companies, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we will also cover coal here in just a minute. But again, I think
Mhm.
overall energies here is at a place where you can actually see some big breakouts. Also in uranium, by the way, you're looking at the spot price. In this case here, we have I have been cleaning up a lot of the charts here, by the way. So, but right now I'm focused on this 1.5 year worth of basically more or less sideways action, and we have roughly three on top now, beginning from there. So maybe you can call it four. So if we can break that trend line, that should propel us to like a move up to here to like five, six, excuse me, 6 to 6.5 on the nat gas, and we are currently at let's call it like 2.5. So there's also some potentially energy being released there to the upside for nat gas.
Man, this would do wonders to have a breakout in oil and natural gas at the same time for some of these energy service companies, because
Yeah, for
that would
sure.
be one heck of a move to be going up in both of them.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, you can also see the Bollinger Bands is just sitting on top here. So that's a lot of resistance. But if you start to move, you'll start to hug the Bollinger Bands. And that's when you have like typically like you can have like 7 green candles in a row on a weekly. So that is, yeah, that could be one to look for when that happens. But again, we have to clear first. And if you want to be really bullish on nat gas, I will say somewhere, yeah, above 3, like on a weekly closing basis, just to be extra safe is probably where things could really be in favor and not just go sideways for like 2.5 like 18 months or so.
Okay. And then what about, I see TTF gas there. What about TTF, Dutch gas? How's that look?
Yeah,
Same thing?
it's kind of the same. But what makes me go to this one a lot more were actually once we started to came down from that bear market, we had a potential big support line which has held twice now. Um, and we are also coming into a little bit of a sweet spot here because we have again about to break that to again roughly 2 years worth of trend line here, potentially a mini bull flag below, which is very often a precursor for a breakout. So you tag it, you come down, you bull flag, and then you break on the next move. So
Mhm.
getting above like 42 here, maybe 43, 42 on the Dutch one here is really where again confirming the nat gas chart basically. So
Come
but we have
on,
to
let's
clear
get
it
this
also
break.
because yeah, but we have to clear it because you're also in a little bit of a trend here, I will say, somewhere, yeah, somewhere like that. So if we can't clear, then we could actually start to come down also pretty heavily. So we are into this little triangle of death here, you can say, but with I would say a little bit more bullish than bearish, to be honest, because we haven't, yeah, we got rejected it right there as mentioned, but we bull flagged and then we came higher, attacking again. Basically, you can see the pressure cooker here on the daily. That is, I mean, I think it's gonna pop here.
Flip side. Yeah.
So
It
yeah,
looks good to me.
yeah, it does. It's
And then, so if we get upside breakout on natural gas, my opinion, what likely follows is coal prices come roaring back because that's the swing producer. So, what are you seeing in coal here? I'm hoping
same
something similar.
Same
Yeah.
thing. I mean, sitting just below what I've been looking at, also with my members for like basically the past 6 months or so. We had let's zoom out a bit just to show you how incredible coal were, from basically from 2020 to 2022, just absolutely from like 50 to basically, let's call it 500 just to round it up. So like a 10x in coal. And a lot of the producers, the stocks did many more than
Crushed it.
10x. It was just
Crushed it.
incredible. I wasn't a part of that, unfortunately, not as much as I would have liked. I had a little bit of BTU, but I sold way too early. It is what it is. Um, but uh, but we came down hard as you usually do when you have these big moves to the upside. You usually come down, especially in commodities. You come down quite hard. We did come into this pivot low here at roughly 120, and actually I had a long-term trend line going back to 2011, which I thought we were gonna hit, but based on basically the last 1 year price action, I don't think we'll get there because we came down and then we started to form this blue wedge here, breaking out, bull flagging, and then we started to hammer basically onto that yellow trend line coming down here. We have 4 now, but I would expect it to break here again. Very similar chart to the nat gas one, just sitting below that ceiling that prevents it from really going. So getting above 152, I mean, that's when you have also coal all of a sudden starts to move, right? And I would be surprised if you have, let's say we have gas here and coal start to really do some big moves here. that oil would not participate in that. Again, I could be wrong, but to me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Again, I could be
Yeah,
wrong. We have to wait and see, but yeah.
you will be wrong. So here's another thing. So when you take that big picture view and you back way out, you had like a base that we were coming from 2008, 2009. We broke out of that base. We're doing a retest. Could that be the first wave, and then we're going to enter into a new gigantic wave? Is that kind of what the expectation is going forward?
I hope not. Well, for the humanity, well, because if that's the case, you know exactly what that means. Funny that you mention it because the Danish news is for the past like month or two has starting to say that we have won over inflation, and you know exactly what that means often because when they start to say we have won, it's the exact opposite, right? We are at the bottom of this valley between the two waves, and we're going to go higher. And if that's the case, this could be the precursor of high energy prices. And again, energy is the ultimate, inflation participant, what's it called, giving the most to inflation. So I hope not again overall, but again, given where I am positioned and all that, personally, it wouldn't be the worst thing that's going to happen. But again, it's two sides of the coin, really. It's going to be tricky if that is the case, but we shall
Well,
see.
the reason I say that is because we have a lot of electricity demand coming from now till 2030. And when I mean a lot, I mean
Mhm.
a lot.
Yeah,
So I find it almost, from a narrative perspective, not from charting, even though the chart I do think they agree. I find it almost impossible that this can't go higher
yeah,
because, and I know that's dangerous wording to say in the market, but from a longer term perspective, not from the short term day to day movements, I find it really hard how coal, natural gas, uranium, all these things, like I don't see how they can't go higher here because the electricity demand is going to explode worldwide from artificial intelligence, more adoption of air conditioning and all this other stuff coming in third world countries. It's like this has got to be a first wave, second wave pullback move, and then we get some monster move because coal is the swing producer, and from what I understand, people have told me, and the research I've done is coal is generally the best performer against all of the other energy uh, sectors.
yeah, yeah.
So this could be one heck of an opportunity here in coal and some of the companies. And some of the companies are starting to break to the upside. So it's like, whoo,
True,
this is gonna
true.
this is gonna look good. So
Yeah. And I'm mostly, well, basically almost only like a charting guide, technicals. But again, looking at the fundamentals, I don't think we have done much, ever since we peaked out here in this, the past 2 years in order to get more energy on the markets. I don't think we have done that much in order to cover it. I mean, maybe a little, but compared to the demand from AI, from EVs, from, you name it, it's not enough. So I will agree on you on that one with regarding to the fundamentals. I mean,
yeah, so sticking with the energy sectors, well, actually, do we? Is there any coal ETFs? I think they eliminated all the coal ETFs, so there's no
I
real
haven't I
coal
haven't seen
ETF to
one.
look at.
No, if there is
Um,
one, I would like to know, but I don't
I
remember
think they
anyone.
got rid of
So
it.
okay, okay.
What about uranium? What's your thoughts, opinions around uranium? And I know it's one of your favorite sectors,
Yeah, it is.
so you
Yeah, it
you better
is.
do it justice.
I'm always trying to be as, as non-biased as possible, even though
Yep.
of course, it is difficult. I know you cannot be completely. Um, but again, before we go into the miners and the ETFs, again, I think we should go in the same, thread here with the spot price for the uranium itself. And I would just again like to point out this beautiful uptrend here, really back from 2020, almost picture perfect, uptrend. Yes, I know we did a little bit here and then peaked above there. I know, but overall, this is almost as good as it gets, right? And what was really interesting is also something that we looked at on. You can see here we were watching again. Same kind of thing here with compared to gas and to coal. We had that big trend line coming down and we broke heavily. And that was step one in my book. We bounced perfectly off the uptrend. We broke the short-term downtrend, and then I wanted to see us getting back above 83. And I think we closed basically at 83. So it might be a little bit too early to call it victory, but it looks really, really good for the Uranium spot price. And if we are to follow this channel here, I mean, this channel is valid until broken. And again, if we are to ping pong between here, again, that is potentially what we're going to see. So we're going to see if that's the case, and this one is valid all the time, you're going to see, 140, that is all-time highs. And given the speed of the past two times here, we are talking like 9 months time potentially. So,
Where oil's going too.
excuse me?
Oil's going to go up to that same price. They
Oh,
uranium and oil
140.
have kind of
Yeah, yeah,
raced each other.
140. Yeah,
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 140 or
exactly.
something.
Yeah, they're similar in
Yeah.
price tags. Yeah, true, true. So,
So that's
so yeah,
looking
I
good.
mean,
Look at the volume
yeah,
candlestick at the bottom
exactly.
there.
Yeah, it's heavy volume buying at that perfect touch,
Hmm.
and you broke the short-term downtrend. Again, from a technical point of view, a lot of check marks being done at that point in time. So,
Hmm.
um,
Looks
should we
good.
t should we take a look at the ETFs? I think
Yes, definitely.
there's a lot of things going on in this chart, I know, but it is what it is. Maybe we can just delete a little bit of it because it's not that important to our discussion. But let's do like that because we had this big trend line and we broke. And you can see what happens when you break these very long-term trend lines. It went really quickly. Obviously, it didn't help that we had the yen carry trade basically tanking the entire market here as well. That didn't help. But ever since, we have actually recovered really nicely up from that double bottom. Um, and I think I spoke with you last time as well that once we started to come down heavily, I said that we're gonna need August and September to basically grind, the wall of worry. And all of a sudden, we're up here a little bit quicker than I personally would have thought. But if we again, all of a sudden, it can be extremely bullish again. Here we have a tiny bull flag here as well. So if we can get back above that long-term, very important trend line, which is now resistance, all of a sudden you are flipping long quite quickly. And you can see here you're also breaking a lot of other trend lines going on here, breakout, retest, and you're almost ish at the highs here. We're only like 10% up from the highs, and people are still, again, not saying that we're going to break, but again, we're not hearing much on Twitter and X and all that. Not yet, at least. That's a good thing. Um,
We
so
heard everybody complaining about it
yeah, yeah, yeah.
not too long ago, which
It
is a
was
good vibe
painful.
for
I
people.
mean, I mean, July and August was really painful, 100%. And I also said, and I have that on record as well, when we broke here, that candle, I was like, this is it. We are going to go to a lot higher prices. And basically, that was a very, very, very incorrect call. But again, you're not right all the time. But that was basically the biggest fake, in a long time in uranium in my book here. We came down retesting, still fine, and then we collapsed. So yeah, it's
Yeah, everyone was real mad on Twitter at that
yeah,
bottom. They're all yelling at each other.
yeah, for
Found that
sure.
pretty amusing. Some
Yeah.
people exited the uranium space in its
Yeah.
entirety down there,
Yeah, many
just
did.
so
And
it
yeah,
reversed higher.
yeah, it's funny how that works. Yeah. So it's I mean, that's also one thing that I've learned, the Twitter or X, the sentiment is really a big tell sometimes. It's not the
Mhm.
high, but you should probably getting somewhat close often when people are getting a little bit out of hand with the Ferraris and private planes and all that. So then
The Lambos,
it's yeah, exactly the
the
Lambo, yeah, exactly.
win
So
Lambo.
yeah, win Lambo.
So when we break this thing, uh, when I said when, not if, I said when.
Hmm.
When we break this, what does that look like? Are we going to be flying higher? Is there a ton of resistance up at that 3160-ish level?
I think if we go to the monthly just to get rid of all, that daily noise, which is basically, well, the daily chart, I think anything below the daily chart is basically noise. And even sometimes the daily chart, it doesn't matter. I mean, the weekly is probably where it is happening. But you can see here, once we clear, again, we have broken the downtrend. We tagged it here. Compression, breaking out. You could call this a big retest, actually. We didn't quite get there, but I'm saying it's probably a retest of that long-term trend line. And you have a little bit of a cup and handle play here. So again, once we get above
So,
that pesky, I've been talking about that for a long time, that pesky 31.5, which we had a
mhm.
big fake here. I mean, that's when it could start to go.
I think we're
Remember,
gonna go big.
this is the
I think
monthly,
we're
so
gonna go big.
it takes some time to mature, but yeah, it's I want to show you one thing actually before we go on uranium.
I'm getting too bullish here because like I think we're gonna go big in energy across the
Hmm.
entire board. That's what I
Yeah,
think. I think they're all
yeah,
gonna just rip.
yeah, we could. I want to show you something here again. We have been talking
Sure.
about this. This is the reason why you should be really bullish. Really, really bullish actually. This is, I'm just gonna copy one here and then I'm gonna add it. Can you see this one here? You've seen it
Yeah, the
before, I
Wyckoff
know. Yeah,
accumulation.
yeah, it's just, I mean, if that's the case, I can put on two trend lines here. I mean, four, and then you can see the how identical it really is. It's just, I mean, roughly somewhere around that, right? It's just incredible how picture perfect it is. And if that's the case, you're basically right there, right?
About to rip.
And that's you already divided by the spot price. And we talked about the spot price. We could actually go way higher, so you will actually outperform that as well within the miners. And and I have a very clear level that I've been looking at for ages, just dreaming about clearing that, one, excuse me, 0.37 on the ratio. That seems to me to be the sweet spot to confirm it right there. And we're basically sitting below it. Once again, we haven't broken, but again, because I think when the miners will do extremely well in relation to the spot price in dollar terms and all that good stuff. So you can also see some
Yeah, and
technical breaking here. So it's just, yeah.
there's still a lot of individual companies too that they're pretty close to their bottom. If you
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to pile on risk, that is, but they're pretty still pretty low.
Yeah, I can show you LEU here just quickly how bullish it looks on the weekly. I mean, I bought that heavily. Just look at this on the weekly, zooming out here like 20 years. So you have
Yeah,
that.
nice double
Oh, wait.
bottom there
Yeah,
earlier.
big double bottom, but again, you had that big trend line going back many years, and then you had the break, the retest, compression. This looks like a lot of the oil charts, by the way, the indices, the stocks, and then you had that big break. A little fakey here, but again, you have that big break, and now you're back above that.
Yeah, the volume
That's
on the
actually,
bottom too.
yeah, it's incredible. And
Yeah.
one thing that's funny, we had the chart looks mega bullish on Centrus Energy, LEU, and then you have some sort of rating company firm, whatever, coming out saying that they're gonna reduce LEU from a buy to like a hold, and I'm like, are you? Clearly, we're not looking at the same thing. I mean, to me, this is just the. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong, but again, I think This is one of the the more beautiful long term pictures here. Again, to me, I can't understand how they get those ideas, but yeah,
I
it is
think
what
they
it is.
missed the
So
buy point and they have to
yeah,
downgrade it to get a buy point out of it.
yeah, true. That is probably why it is. I mean, it's just it doesn't make sense to me. I could be wrong, obviously,
No,
but
you
again, to me, this looks extremely well. False breakdown here again. You can see from the 3 year pattern, and then boom, shorts are getting crushed straight away. So yeah,
yeah,
funny little
it
side
looks like
story.
we're just gonna do a retest before a big move higher is what it looks
Yeah,
like.
could be, yeah. But I think it's so yeah, that's a fun little story there. But yeah,
I love it because I don't look at those things at all. If they, the analyst saying buy, hold, or sell, I'm like, oh yeah, uh-huh. I just thought it was funny that you made a comment on it because
you can see
I
here
think the
some
same
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, to neutral from buy here from Roth MKM. I don't know who that is, but again, I just found it funny, and it tanked like 10% during that day. So I don't know, strange.
Yeah, it's like the best looking chart that you could like ever imagine and dream
Yeah,
of uranium versus the futures pricing. And then this is like breaking out to the upside. I'm like, you downgrade it right on the breakout.
yeah, exactly. That's yeah, but at least then it's not the top. I mean, that's at least in my book. I mean, we're still yeah looking at it in
Yeah.
the right way. At least that's what I think. So
Yeah, so it looks good. Everything
yeah,
looks good. I don't see anything bad and nothing to be negative about. Oh, you got
no,
the Sprott physical up there. Nice.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's basically that is the tracker of the spot price. Well, not one to one, but they yeah. And yeah, basically, since we broke that 25, I can't remember where we were when we talked, if we were still within
I
the
think we
red one
were.
there. I think we were in, yeah, because we had to go a little bit further back. But again, I said once we clear that 25, basically the wedge pattern and 25, we're gonna see a move to the upper blue. And we are slowly grinding. Well, actually quite fast, but we are grinding our way to the upper blue, and then we will see what happens. But zooming out, this is again same kind of very clear uptrend going back to 2020. Uh, Again, if that's the case, you have a bull flag over here, you can add the pole, and then you can basically somewhere do like that. Again, you're reaching the same upper trend line when you look at the spot price. So yeah, I mean, it looks good. It really does look good still. But August, September were very scary, and a lot of sleepless nights, were probably made there by people. So it was a bit scary, but yeah.
It's good. It's good. Oh, I wasn't all that scared. Even in oil, when it was breaking down a little bit, I
Yeah.
wasn't all that scared. I was like, I have to wait a little bit to have it loop back around. I don't see how we would go lower and stay lower for any long length of time. I think any dip would just be a short dip.
Yeah.
So
If we were to take the negative glasses on here for oil, if we can do that, just completely switching, sector there. But again, this could also be a big neckline, and I know many people are watching that, and then you have the left, somewhat of a head there, and then you have the right shoulder. So what we did was actually tagging again the neckline there, and that's also why you said, 85 will completely, maybe a tad higher, maybe 87, but at least these two high here. When and if we clear those, this pattern here should be negated. So again, that's also why, as we talked about in the early stages, it's looking nice here, but again, we need to see those. For me, like 80 should probably do it, but from a technical point of view, we need to take out the shoulder highs basically at roughly, 85, 80, 87 or so.
I think Francis Hunt, he's
Yeah,
calling for like way lower
yeah,
oil.
yeah. I mean,
Man, I don't know.
Francis, I
I don't
really
know.
that's actually the guy who got me into technical trading. So again, I respect him a lot, and he could be totally right, obviously, but again, unless we need to get below that 65 there in order to confirm it, and then still in my book we have the big support trend line, which will be if we break like 60. So there's still a lot of big support that needs to get cracked in order to really get this pattern going. But yeah, we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible if they do some
Hmm.
sort of like false flag event or do something where you get
Yeah.
an event that scares everybody. It's still
It,
possible.
yeah, that's also what he is saying actually, that oil it looks like to him that oil we have, I think he calls it a DDE, demand destroying event. Yeah.
Hmm.
And if that's the case, like in 2020, obviously, I mean, all models or whatever, with regarding to prices goes out the window like we saw in 2020. So if that's the case, yeah, we can easily see, a mega flush like we saw right there, right? So
Yeah. It looks good at its current time, though. We have a
yeah,
big bullish engulfing on the candlestick.
yeah, exactly. That big
And
short squeeze
usually
there.
we got that strength, showing strength to try to push it higher. So
Yeah.
we can,
But again, yeah, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I'll go for it if you have any
No,
other
no, I'm just
comments.
no, I think we
Yeah,
should
we were
switch
going to
over.
switch to gold and
Yeah,
silver. Yeah. Here
yeah,
you
that's
already
also
rip into it. Nice.
so
So tell me,
yes, yeah, go
t-
ahead.
tell me how bullish you are on silver right now.
I mean, as a Dane, we are very moderate when it comes to being, extremely hyped and all that. But I think
Mhm.
again, ever since we cleared that 26 right there, the sweet spot in my view here, right there it is. I've been bullish ever since. Yes, we're getting dips along the way and all that, but still, to me, it looks fantastic. It really does. It really does. Before we go into the price action, I want to show you something amazing. At least I find it amazing. Maybe people don't, but I
Sure.
do. I do. So if you look at it here from May, roughly May, we copy that price action here, and then we extend it to the 4 year. Again, I know you love fractals as well, so this might also be up your alley. And then you
Yeah.
can
You're
basically
gonna
see here. Whoa, whoa, whoa,
you're
whoa!
gonna
If I
overlay
can,
it. Yeah.
yeah. It's a little bit difficult to do here. For some reason, it's very, very sensitive, but you can see
Yeah.
it right there. I'm not going to adjust it
Same
anymore.
fractal.
It's roughly the
Yep.
same fractal again. I won't touch it because it's very, very sensitive. But this is basically the exact same fractal like we saw from August 2020 until basically the start of 2024, maybe mid 2024. So, and that resolved to the upside. So I'm expecting this one to move as well. And I think, again, the big 32.5, which we talked about last time, will be a very big line in the sand there. And again, I think that the era of being short and make a lot of money on silver being short, you should probably reevaluate that strategy because I think we're going to go way higher. Uh, Again, the big cup
I'll
and handle and all that good stuff, which we will not go into. But again, this to me is,
I'll make I'll make sure to copy this clip and send it to Jamie Dimon over at JP
yeah, yeah,
Morgan.
please do, please do. Um, so yeah, I mean, the long-term stuff we have talked about many times before, but I think the short-term stuff we are seeing the exact same thing, what happened 4 years ago until basically like a half year ago. And again, this is probably going to result to the upside. And again, I wouldn't be short here. Like we talked about last time, we can see those limits limit up really quickly when the shorts are getting pressured. So so yeah, but we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen the short squeeze yet. This is purely, nominal price action. No short squeeze like we saw on lithium, for example. This the past few weeks here, we've seen lithium going absolutely crazy. That's a short squeeze. This is not. This is just purely trend lines at levels being respected, and people are buying into that. The weakness in the short time frame. So beautiful.
Yeah. You going to gold next? And
Yeah, we can.
and
Yeah.
are we gonna get a pause in gold or are we just gonna keep going higher? What's going on here?
I mean, I think gold has done so well. I mean, we just have to admire again, very simply. Again, that's February 2024. Again, beautiful technical. This was a lot of pain, I know. Little bull flag there, and then we just have blasted higher. And am I still bullish on gold long term? Yes. Could we see a pullback? Yes. But again, I think many people are waiting for a big pullback. Maybe you won't get like, that 20, 30% drop. Maybe you only see like 10, and then people will still be on the sidelines. But yeah, we shall see. But anyways, you can also see here we have this big trend line going back like 50 years. And that's why we're stalling a bit here, uh, because that is basically the highs of 1980, 2011, and then you have again we're touching it here. But if you go to the daily stuff here, you can actually see again this is very short term, like a week or two. We are
Flagging.
actually flagging there a tiny bit. Again, mixing, like 2 weeks compared to like 50 years. Again, let's see how it goes. But for now, at least, we're not getting any hard rejection. Let's say we tag that long-term trend line and you start to come down heavily. That's totally different. Yes, we are pausing, but we're doing it, still within a ordinary manner. So it doesn't seem like people are getting ready to short gold heavily, which I think they will at some point in time because we are so extended. But again, it could be, multiple months before we see that still. So
So if we break out, I know we've got that big upper trend line. It almost looks like a cup and handle too from the 50-year chart. And then we got a cup and handle there too. But
yeah, yeah.
if we break to the upside, can we get another impulse move higher after that break? Maybe a breakout retest and then another big old move.
Yeah, I think I know many people are looking at there are so many measured moves here that triggered, once we started to clear this year, because right now we've actually hit. This is actually good that you're asking because there are so many targets to be hit, in my opinion. So we have that inverted head and shoulders. The target we basically hit to the T here last week or the week before. So that was the first target. But then again, you also have like a little bit of a flagpole here that is again should be pointing to like I think it's if you do it on nominal terms, it's 3K. So that's the next one. But then, as you mentioned, you also have a bigger cup and handle. If I can find again here, you have that. You have the cup here. You have the handle. So again, longer down the line, you're talking again 3,600. So again, this is just a big first target that has been met, and could we pull back from here? Sure, but again, that doesn't change anything when it comes to me not being bullish on gold. We could see some overshooting and then we come down, but long term, I mean, you have to be bullish on gold. It has been the trade has been great ever since we broke that 4 year sideways action. But 1 year, 2 year down the line, I'm expecting us to be a lot higher. Yes, there will be pullbacks along the way for sure. Of course there is, but gold has really been one of the best performing assets here lately. Basically, 2024 has been really, really good for gold. So
So, to the best of your ability, where do you think gold's going to go this bull market?
I
Ultimate
think there,
high
yeah,
and when?
this is like many videos ago with you. I think like a good guess because no one knows for sure. But again, if you are to do again from you can see here, I want to show you that this is a rough quick sketch again. You saw like that 800% move back in the 70s, and then you had, if I can delete that one, yes, please. And then you had that again, roughly 600, basically identical. And so again, if you do on top here from the lows of the cup here in 16, you do like 600%. Let's just do it very quickly like that. Again, 8,000, 7,000. Yeah. So that's just a replica of what we saw, looking back, like 50 years or so. But uh, but we are also at a stage where we are at an end game kind of thing when it comes to the current financial system with the fiats. So you can see some really crazy moves and very fast moves, at the end of all this. So
So, if gold gets to eight-ish thousand dollars, what do you think the ratio on silver is going to be at that point? Just curious.
yeah, it's a good question, and I've said many times. Maybe not on this show, but I think I have. But again, I do believe when all this comes to an end, where gold and silver will probably not be the best investment at that point in time. I think we can see some intraday, single digit gold to silver ratios at that point in time.
So
Because we are at the end of such a 40 year, bond bull market that is collapsing in front of our eyes. So you can
you wait.
divide this
So
number by 10. So
yeah. So you're
yeah,
saying
yeah.
$1,000 an ounce silver is possible because that would be single digit
It sounds
ish.
crazy, but again, if you go to 10 to 1, which I mean, if we can look at the ratio, we can do that because I think there are some great and this I know for sure I've done on your show before.
Yeah.
Um,
You
100%. And
showed the projected moves lower.
yeah, exactly. And when you have these things just lining up so good, I mean, to me that it just means that there has to be something to it because it's basically picture perfect. And it's the case here. You take the big blow off top high here in the ratio, meaning that was when you got the least amount of gold for your silver. You take it down here, do like a Fibonacci extension, and you can see here again we have the big 1.618 here, going back perfectly to the 2011 highs. Then you have the 2.618 straight back to the lows in
Bottom.
the bottom, yeah, in the 80s. And then for some odd reason, the next big FIP level, 3.618, is according to Keith Neumeyer the exact number for what he pulls up from the ground, 71. So again, the alignment to me interesting to say the least. It's That's very interesting, right? You have such a perfect alignment of these Fibonacci that sequence basically. And obviously getting down to 71 if that happens. It's not going to be tomorrow. We are talking potentially, yeah, depending on the speed, but mid 30s depending on the speed. Again, it could go faster if we really collapse in overall the market overall, but yeah.
Yeah, there's just an FYI, this is all technical, but on the fundamental side, Samsung just came out with a battery that can charge in something like 8 or 9 minutes, but it requires 1 kilogram of silver per battery to get that type of rate. Right now, over the past few years, we've been running a deficit of silver of 250 million ounces. So we've been sucking down the inventory. At some point, inventory is going to get to critical levels, whatever the market deems as critical levels. And I think these types of ratios, maybe it is possible. I mean, a lot of people they can't. I think the failure for a lot of people is the ability to be open enough for large moves in the future. They're too closed-minded and they say, it's impossible, can't happen, won't do this. And then they won't take a position early. And then when people start to realize that it is possible and they can see a path to it, then it's too late to take a big position because it's already been realized.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Exactly.
yeah, I think it looks good. It's
Yeah, again,
all in
just want to
alignment.
show you that potential head and shoulders there, pointing to the exact low of the 2011. Again, it just looks really, really on point from
It's
the
too
Fibonacci.
perfect.
Yeah, it's maybe too perfect, I know.
It's almost too perfect.
Yeah. And then we go here to the what's it called, regular scale here. I'm always using logarithmic, and then you can just also see here that we now have three touches on that trend line, 11, 21, 2024, and again, you very often you break on the fourth. So once you tag that blue bad boy there, it's on to the races. So,
It looks
but
like
you
a
will,
flag pattern too, to some degree. Like you drop like a rock and then you flag
yeah,
out upwards,
yeah,
upward
you have
facing.
that little
Yep.
bad boy there. Yep, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Just
uh,
big picture speaking.
yeah, I will also say this though, just so we don't sound that we, are correct, every single damn time because we are not. This was actually also again, I have that right there. The intern, we had that grinding line here. We broke down, and that is actually when you started to see the miners do extremely well. And I've been saying or many times that I think the key to the miners in general is this ratio. So when this comes down heavily, that's when you see the mining sector in iron, uranium, gold, silver, platinum, palladium, all that good stuff do really, really well. But we had a big breakdown. We came for the retest, and we actually closed back in again. Yeah, that was
That's a
really
retest.
scary. Yeah, yeah, but
That's a
that's really
retest.
scary. But you
I
can
think
also
we're
see
going
here
down.
we came all the way here, and now we finally, on a weekly basis, we actually closed below last week. So the bulls and the bears in the ratio are fighting, but again, I think ultimately south.
So my opinion, if anybody wants it, is anything that breaks upward is going to be temporary because of the market conditions and the recession fear or recession that does come. It would only be temporary, and I think it'll fall after if we do get a counter move upward. I think it'll be a false break upward, and then we get a huge move lower,
Yeah,
like a double top almost.
yeah, same thing
Yeah,
like this, right? But on a larger time
same thing,
scale. So
same thing.
this you get that huge collapse,
Huge
and
collapse.
when we broke there, this was in 2010, basically when the recession were probably at its highest, maybe, or we were on the back end of it. I can't remember. But you can see here, ever since we started to come down, it was basically a one-way street. You had a little hump here, but other than that, it was basically like a picture perfect, pole, tiny flag, and then you have the second pole on top there, basically hitting the lows. So once we break convincingly over here, it's going to be the same thing, in my opinion. It's going to go down heavily, really quickly, really, really quickly. So
It's coming.
hopefully,
That's good. What about like an ETF like SILJ?
oh
Is
yeah,
that looking?
I'm a
And I've
fan.
got my opinions on it, but
Yeah,
I won't say anything yet.
yeah. Unfortunately, the SILJ only goes back to 2012. I wished it went back further, basically, like a few years before we peaked in when was it? I can't remember, 11 or whatever. But basically, in my view, still really early on the miners, because we are still within this overall 12, 13 years, whatever it is, kind of sideways price action here. And you can see here, this was actually when we had that big drop in the gold to silver ratio, and then we broke down, and then we came back again, testing the neck or the line here, and now we're grinding up higher, closing above 13, which was a big level for me. But ultimately, I think if we zoom out here, again, we have three on top again. We have one, two, three. I think we're going to break on the fourth, maybe four and a half, and then we go. Uh,
Do you think that's a launching pad?
yeah, for
That whole
sure.
pattern?
Yeah, for sure.
That's
I
what I
think you
think it
can.
is.
Oh, excuse me. I think you can take the initial here. Again, that's,
Yeah.
oh, excuse me. That's like the momentum that you build, and then the pressure is going to be again something like that. That's usually how that can be done. So we are now at 13. You can see like 80 here at the end of it all here. So
Yeah. And that's just a projection. It doesn't mean it stops there. We can
No, no,
overshoot.
exactly. You can
Yeah.
overshoot, yeah, and it can take longer time, shorter time. Again, the
Yep.
timing of it is always difficult, but that is like your projected target. And sometimes you get really close, but you can't make it. But again, depending on how great you are at doing the lines again. But that is just like a bias you can say you get at that point in time. That close to that area is where you should probably start to take some profits potentially, depending on how you do things. But yeah,
Well, if we get to the single digit ratio on silver, and if silver goes all the way up there, I can't imagine that these silver companies would go way higher than that
yeah, yeah, for sure.
because they don't make anything today hardly on some of the silver companies. And then in the future, if you've got like five, six, seven, $800 an ounce silver, I mean that's going to push these things ballistic.
Yeah, for sure.
Do
But
you
again,
agree? Or
yeah, but as we looked at on the gold to silver ratio, the timing of that could be like the early 2030. So again, at that point in time, we're talking here, and I do think that this level will get hit before. So this is at a different stage in that journey. That's probably like where you get to like the 60 to 1, I think it is, the lows there of 2011. I think we could be here potentially. So different
so
stages of that move.
if we do get to like a 10 to 1 ratio and silver goes to 800, what do you think Silj could do? I mean, even if it's out in 2030, 2031, 2032, like where do you think that would potentially go? Because you know, we talk a lot about the short term, but I think a lot of investors, if you need the courage of your conviction, and the reason we're in this space is to get these monster upward moves. If we get silver at $500 to $800 an ounce, like what does that look like for Silj? Like how high could this thing go? And obviously, you're not going to be perfect. I know I'm asking a difficult question, but like, what's your opinions around it?
Yeah, extremely difficult to say because I think you also have to factor in where, if that's the case, where could oil potentially be? Because if you have oil a lot higher from where we are today, obviously, what they make of per ounce is, getting pushed down by the increased oil. So very difficult to get like a projection at that point in time. But I do think that that potential target you would probably be able to project here depending on what happens here. So this move up here and the pullback that you're going to get is probably the precursor to that target potentially. Again, I'm totally, this is so far out in the future, it's difficult to say, but that could be what I'm thinking here.
Flag
Just,
pattern or
yeah, depending
some
on
cup
how
and handle pattern, whatever it is.
exactly. Yeah. And we're probably going to come down quite low, long. I mean, like a 50% haircut there is easily in the cards. So
61.8, 50, something like that. Um, Here's another question then. If we get this big move in silver, it starts to run, and let's say oil starts to run at the same time, do you think that the oil producers would be more profitable than perhaps the mining companies? I know this is kind of a difficult question. It's almost like we have to do a silver to oil ratio of some extent, but like,
yeah. Yeah.
what do you think is going to occur there? Would you rather be in oil and energy, or would you rather be in the mining companies?
I think I will counter that and say that could be a topic for like another video where I can prepare that, so we can have a look at what could be the best play again based on what we can find. Because I think that's you need like at least like half an hour to talk about that, all the ratios and what could happen. So I think we can have another video because it's an interesting question for sure.
Okay.
Hmm?
Okay, well, we can end it there. This is the end that we were going to basically hit. Anything else that you'd like to share, Kasper, with any of these topics, or any ending comments that you have across the board here?
No, I mean I think I don't have much more. We talked like an hour about basically energy and a tiny bit of gold and silver, but I'm not seeing any cracks, at least in gold and silver for now, that suggest me that we are at the end of what I think and hope will happen. Um, but again, people I think have to remember that nothing goes in a straight line. So even though if we start to break here again, you can see some big retests that will shake people out again and say, "Oh, that was it, false breakdown, false breakout, and all that." But I'm extremely bullish on the silver miners, gold miners, and potentially I am bullish on uranium. But if we break out on that, URA divided by the spot price, it's gonna be fantastic. And after like I've been looking at that ratio for like 1.5 years, maybe 2 years, and we could see that anticipation break here very, very closely. Hopefully. So
Okay, well, I mean, that's all I've got. How do people follow your work, Casper?
yeah, thank you. As you know, I'm on X or Twitter at UselinkINV. I do some YouTube stuff still, but most of my stuff I do on the Substack. Daily updates on uranium, gold, silver, oil, platinum. I think platinum is above 1050. Fantastic. One of the tiniest markets in the in the commodity space, really. And yeah, that's a different talk. But again, daily updates. So if you want to find me there, that's where you will get my views on the markets, right or wrong. But yeah,
Hey, guys. Well, that's all we've got. Thank you for coming on, Casper, and we'll catch everyone later. See you next episode.
yeah. Bye.